Okay, so finally after 3 days of objective 85, we're going to move on to 86. But it's kind of staying with the same thing. We're dealing with exponents still. I actually think 86 is like a step down. We're like, it's going to be a little easier.
Heck yeah.
So remember some of the things that we've talked about exponents? These problems are not nearly as crazy. Now you're going to see the last one is a little different. The last one's going to throw you for a loop, so pay attention. Okay, the big thing to remember is when you're multiplying the same number or the same variable, this is what we're doing. If you're multiplying the same variable and it's got different exponents, what you're going to do is add the exponents. So we're multiplying 3 different a's here. I got a times a times a, but they have different exponents. Just add them up. So a negative 2 and a 3 makes a to the what? Well, negative 2 and 3 makes 1, and then negative 5, so 1 minus 5 is a to the negative 4. Negative 2 and 3 makes 1, then minus 5, and you got a to the negative 4. But remember what we know about negative exponents. A to the negative 4 will never be your answer. It's going to be what?
1 over a.
1 over a4. So add all your exponents up. Add them up. And if it comes out negative 4, just make it 1 over a4. If it comes out positive, leave it. Then you're done. Now, sometimes they'll do this with numbers. Sometimes they'll do it with x's. Sometimes they'll do it with a's. So here's just 4 more really quick examples. You got 2 x's, x negative 3 and x 5. Before, you could move this 3 to the denominator, but it's actually going to be quicker if you'll just add their exponents real quick and tell me what that is. x2. You got negative 3 and positive 5 makes x to the 2, and that's positive, so you're done. It's x2. Now this one, x negative 6 and x negative 4, just add these up, or negative 6 minus 4, and that makes x to the negative what? 10. You can't finish with x to the negative 10, so you got to fix it, and what's your answer? 1 over x 10. And now finally, here's a little more complicated. This looks more like 85, but it's not nearly as bad because it's all up top and there's no negative exponents. So I would not expect anything in the denominator. You're multiplying these 2 chunks and there's no exponents on the chunks, like in 85. So it's just this stuff times this stuff. Start with the numbers. Negative 5, negative 2 makes what? Positive 10. Then let's go with the x's in alphabetical order x's. So x3 and x3 makes x 6. Don't say x9. When we see the letter x twice, we're multiplying x times x times x times x times x times x. That's 6 x's. So you just add them up. And you got x6. And then this is y1, and there's a y2. So there's how many y's? And then the last one is like the first one. You got a whole bunch of a's. One thing though, I think the reason I put this one on here is because there's one thing you can actually see really quick. You got a to the negative 6, a to the 4, and a to the negative 4. If you just put these 2 together, what does that make?
0.
A to the 0. And what is a to the 0? Yeah, cross that. It's just a 1. So if you would just look at, you see a4 and a negative 4, that's a0. So you really can cross this out. So anytime you have 2 that work together to cross them out, and then your answer is really a to the negative 6. And you got to make it
1 over 8.
Hey, we still got a whole other side. All right, this next side is where we're going to start talking about the one issue that comes up on 86 that hasn't come up yet. And that's when I start talking about plus signs or subtraction signs. So here's the problem with pluses and minuses. Oh yeah, and one little, I guess, grammar correction over here. This is a B. I don't know why it looks like a B. It's going to be a B. What? That was a but. There's a lot of stuff there, but it's actually just one piece. So this first little example. Plus and minus signs separate algebra junk into pieces. So if you have a plus sign between 2 things, you have 2 pieces. What we have not seen so far is any plus signs. Sometimes you see the minus sign, but we're still thinking of it as negative, not subtract. So when you see this, there's a whole bunch of algebra business in this, but there's no plus sign. So what this is one piece. It says 2 times x times y5 times 5 times y4, and you can put it all together. And what would it make? What's that? 10x y9. So you can just multiply and put things together, and this would be just 10x y9. That should be simple. There's no negative exponents. Multiply the big numbers. There's the 1x, the 9y's. That's it. The next one, despite the fact that this says -2 and that says -5, there are no plus or minus signs in between them. This is -5x to the third y, -2 x to the third y squared. These are just two chunks being multiplied. There's no adding or subtracting happening. So you just multiply it, and what's the number? 10x to the 6, y to the 3. And that's it. The problem with plus or minus signs, when you see this, the plus sign makes this thing two separate pieces. So you're not multiplying all this. It's not 5x y squared times 2x to the third y. It's this stuff plus this stuff. And we can't put them together because that would be different terms. Remember like terms, and then we've gone through a lot of multiplying. If you add like terms, they have to have the same variable situation. So you can't add these together. So then this would just be it. That's the problem with pluses and minuses. A plus sign between two things makes it two separate pieces. Now, how does this affect us on this objective? Well, down here, you're going to see something like this pop up. So every problem we've done, this is objective 86. Well, here's one that just kind of is out in left field. It looks like this. What you have is this parenthesis, but inside the walls of this parenthesis is a couple plus signs. What that does is it breaks the parenthesis into 1, 2, 3 pieces. Those plus signs or minus signs right here and here, meaning that that's a trinomial inside the parenthesis. What we have outside the parenthesis, which is going to get distributed, this is all one piece right here. So what we're going to do is take that one piece and you're going to distribute it. So it's going to go this times this, and that'll give you an answer. And then you're going to have to go this times this, and you'll have a second piece. And then you're going to go this times the last piece, and you'll get a trinomial as your answer. You should have three separate things. So I'm going to multiply 4x squared y to the third times this right here. So I put the 4 and 5 together, and that makes what? 20. How many x's are getting multiplied? 4. And then there's just that y to the third. So your first piece, when you multiply this one times this, it's 20 x4 y to the third. That's one piece. Now you're going to distribute. You're going to go this one to this one. I'm going to circle that piece with the minus sign because that is a -5 when you distribute.
-20.
So it makes -20. You got x to the what? 5. X to the 5. And then you have y to the 4. And then you want to distribute this to the last piece. So we have what? 8. And then there's no x's here, so it's just x squared and y to the 6. So when you're doing objective 86 and the problem pops up that's got that parenthesis with pluses or minuses in it, it's because inside the parenthesis is 3 separate pieces. Take the chunk outside and distribute it. This times this, here you go. And once you do the first piece, if you're doing multiple choice, when you do the first piece, you can get 50-50 because there's only going to be 2 that have the first piece right. Then you distribute to the second piece, distribute to the third piece. Okay, that's it for objective 86.